The Peplink Antenna MAX S is one of Peplink's most ambitious builds and products. And today what we're going to do is a little bit different than our unboxing videos. We're going to do a build video where we're going to take this, which is kind of everything that comes in the box, and turn it into this, which is a unified enclosure that will allow you to combine blazing fast 5G mobile internet that lets you park under a tree and Starlink all into one convenient little case here that includes some high-powered cellular antennas to make sure that you get connected, and you can power this and run this all with a single Ethernet cable down from the roof. It's also pole mountable and magnet mountable. It's pretty cool stuff. Come along with us, I'll show you how to get one built. Erik from mobilemusthave.com here, and thanks so much for joining us. It's the weekend, I'm a little bit casual today, and we're doing a build, so why not? Before I get started, I wanted to share with you guys why I'm wearing a Michigan Unsalted shirt. I just got back from the Peplink Platinum Partner Summit up in Traverse City, Michigan, and I'm happy to announce that we won Peplink Partner of the Year again for 2025. We won once before in 2023, and I kind of joked with my my reps that the plaque was really cool, but maybe we could get something that we could use to celebrate a little bit more. So this is the new trophy that I got. I'm very happy about that. They also gave us a traditional plaque, but that was a cool little gift. Before we get started with this build, I do want to just say thank you to all of the Peplink Gold, Platinum, and other partners for being part of the community and helping out so many customers learn about these Peplink products. We couldn't do it without you guys. All of your help on the forums, everything you do, watching these videos, and telling your customers about these products just is awesome. So thank you to all the partners, thank you to Peplink, and thank you to our distributors over at Frontier for just putting together a great event. Let's get started with this build. So this is kind of everything that comes in the box. You got a couple accessory bags here, and you want to make sure you don't lose anything. You've got your Starlink mount, there's screws in this bag, and some grommets here with some Starlink power accessories, and that's pretty much it. Then your kind of main system here is three pieces. You've got your top lid here, your mid kind of waterproofing layer, and then your lower base plate, which includes most of the technology, ground planes, cellular antennas, all of that stuff. Before we get started, let's talk about what you will need in terms of tools. You're going to need an eyeglass screwdriver, a flathead. You're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver, like a number 2. We'll typically do it, and a number 1 for some of the smaller screws on the PoE injector. We'll get into a minute. I recommend you have a power screwdriver like this, but make sure it has a clutch on it so that you don't over tighten. I do not recommend you use something like this, an impact driver. If you do, you better be really good with the trigger and know how to not over tighten, because you'll blow the screws right out of the mounts, and that's not a warranty covered item. So keep the impact driver somewhere else for this project. Something like this will give you a clutch, and it'll ensure that the screwdriver won't over tighten, or you can just use a hand screwdriver if you want. From a bit perspective, we're going to be using a lot of T20 Torx screws. They do include a little L wrench, so you don't need it, but if you've ever built a piece of IKEA furniture with one of those, you'll know that you're going to be wanting this probably pretty early in the build if you're trying to use that little L wrench. Additionally, you're going to need your Peplink router. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then you're going to need, I recommend you have an additional Ethernet cable. This is one that you can source on our listing page. This is a 12-inch, but we sell a 6-inch, and that will allow you to uplink your data, because there's power and then there's the ability to uplink if you want to put like a switch or access point or something down below. So you're going to need an extra small Ethernet cable. It comes with one, but you do need 2. Some cutters, just to be able to cut. Some small zip ties I recommend that you have with you. It does not come in the kit. A label maker would be nice. We'll show you kind of what we do. I label the PoE inputs just so I know what's going on with that. And that's pretty much it from a tools perspective. Almost forgot, you're also going to need an 8mm wrench of some kind. This is a kind of standard one that you get in a toolbox, but it's long, even though it looks small. And this could definitely snap off the very delicate connectors inside of these devices. If you torque this too much, this will break right off the motherboard. or you'll strip the gold-plated terminals. So be really careful if you're using a wrench like that. We also sell a small wrench that you can pick up for just a few bucks. It's made out of 3D printed plastic, and we set the infill exactly to the torque specs of SMA. So that's, if you're just not sure or you're worried, that's a good tool to have. But you can use yours. Just note you don't want to over tighten those. Additionally, we're going to need a Starlink Mini. So that's our Starlink Mini right there. And we're going to need a power solution, which doesn't come with it. Now, technically with this build, you could power this with 24, technically even 48 volts, but then the Peplink won't take 48 volts on most of them unless you have a transit. So it's usually 12 to 24 volts is the voltage that you're going to be kind of compatible with both the Starlink and the Peplink device if you're going to want to use the DC input on the back. For this installation, we're going to be setting this all up to work with PoE. It's more forgiving. It means you have only one cable up to the roof, and it automatically will convert your 12 volts up to 24 volts, which will make your Starlink a lot happier than if you try to run it on 12 volts, which is like the absolute bare minimum, and it doesn't really like it, especially if your batteries start to get low, your Starlink will shut down. Better to rock 24 volts. In terms of the power over Ethernet, as the time of filming this, Peplink hasn't released their power over Ethernet injector or splitter, but Mobile Must Have has. So these are our kits that are available, and we'll kind of talk about it. For the purpose of this build, the one that says splitter is going to be inside the box. The one that says injector is going to be down below, providing the power. So this side, you're going to give your 12, 24, or 48 volt battery power up to the terminals, and then an Ethernet cable will carry from here up to this box, and this one will then split and provide power everything, and it does that all over a single Ethernet cable. Additionally, to power this splitter down below, we do offer this, which is a nice 14 gauge fused with a 15 amp fuse power wire that also includes battery, heat shrink lug terminals, as well as ones that can go right up to a fuse box. This is a nice cable. I can tell you most, like 99% of people who have problems with this are having problems because they are bringing power to this device, the splitter, I'm sorry, the injector, and it's not heavy enough gauge wire or it's too long. So make sure that you have nice, good, strong batteries, and you make sure you use a 14 gauge or better wire to power that device. You can just pick it right up on the listing page to keep things simple. All right, so let's get going with the build. Let's talk about what we're going to do here. So we're going to go off to the side here. First thing we want to do is very, very carefully, I'm going to use a razor blade here, but be careful, is unhook the bags associated with these cellular wires. Do not cut the wires, and just be careful. You want to probably remove all of this tape that's in here. It's not going to hurt anything if you don't remove it, but over years and years of getting hot, it's probably going to get pretty funky, so let's get rid of it. Just be very careful not to rip these bags off and then damage your SMA connectors. No matter how good you terminate one of those little connectors, they're just delicate, so you got to be careful with them. This is our plate that's going to hold our PoE injector. Actually, that is one other thing I forgot to mention. I'm going to be using some VHB tape here to mount my PoE splitter, but you could mount it with screws as well. They just don't come in the kit. I'm actually going to mount it with VHB and screws, which we'll show you in a little bit, but that's just something to be aware of. At the time of filming this splitter, Peplink has included a very short cable to power the router. So I'll be orienting our power supply in this direction. I had originally designed it this way so that the screw holes would line directly up to here, which we'll show you in a little bit. But unfortunately, the cable's not long enough. They have told me they are increasing the length by, I think, I don't know, about 3 inches, so it will fit in the future. But at the time of filming this, we're going to mount it this way and just attach it with one screw, which is more than enough with that adhesive tape. All right, so since I'm using the Mini here, I'm not going to be using the GPS antenna because the Mini does not support that. So I'm just going to tuck that off to the side here, just taking special care not to bow or flex out the casing that might cause some waterproof issues. And I'm also not going to be using the 12 volt DC direct wire power input. So I'm going to go ahead and snap off the tinned ends that are there just to prevent anything from happening to those. And I recommend that you just put a little electrical tape on them. I'm going to tuck them over to there for now, but just tape those up before you put them off to the side if you're not going to use them. Next, I've got my PoE splitter here. We're going to go ahead and take off the DIN rail mount that's on the back of it, and I'm going to retain those 2 screws. So we are not going to be using the DIN rail. We include it because a lot of our customers do use DIN rail, but we aren't going to use that for today. I'm going to grab the included L bracket that's in the kit. Let me get that nice and clean there. And then we're going to grab our VHB. If you guys don't know what VHB is, it's a 3M product. It's just a very sticky foam-based tape that is designed for outdoor signs and high temperature applications. You can pick it up at any big box store or Ace Hardware or anywhere like that. We're going to install this. I'm actually going to flip this down so I have the most room possible. So that means we're going to install it this way. It doesn't really matter which way you go, but that's just the way I have been installing them, and it's been working out well. I'm going to take time to line up one of those screw holes with the mounting plate. And then I'm going to be using just some little M3 15 millimeter screws with a nylon locking nut. Again, it's totally optional. I'm just adding it. This is for a first response vehicle. It might be getting a lot of off-road use. So I just want to make sure everything is nice and tight here. All right, so now we've got our PoE splitter there mounted on the mount plate. Go ahead and put that down. Take special care to not pinch any of those sensitive cellular wires. I'm going to use this nice bowl right here, a little magnetic bowl, and that's going to allow me to have all my screws in one spot. Peplink has been nice enough to include some spares, but try not to lose your screws. You're going to need most of them. It's a screw-heavy, intensive installation. Now the screws for the mounting plate on this side are actually in a different bag with those standoffs, but they're the same screws. We'll put our 4 in there. And now we've got that nice and mounted. No screws or no wires are pinched, and we're good to go. Next, I'm going to grab my BR1 Mini Pro 5G here. If you're looking for maximum performance, I would go with the BR1 Pro 5G X65 unit, which is coming and is not officially released at the time of filming this, but if you're interested in getting it, message us, and we've been told we can tell folks that they are available if in pre-launch right now. But the BR1 Mini 5G, which has the X62, is a very, very awesome router. Just note that it has a 300 megabit max throughput. Technically, with the 5G and with the Starlink, you could bump up against that, especially if you're using SpeedFusion, which will cap out at about 60 megabits with a bonded connection. So if you're thinking about max speed, go with the BR1 Pro, not this guy. But regardless, from here, we're going to take the sticker that's on the bag, and I'm actually going to put that on the top of the router here. That way I can see the serial number of the device without having to unscrew it and take it all apart. So that's something I typically do. Then we're going to orient and face the Ethernet cables towards the power supply. Again, taking special care not to sandwich anything in there. You might have to fool around a little bit, but you'll find that there will be screw holes that will line up for each device, regardless of which one you're looking to install. Transit, BR1 Pro, X65, X62 have the same mounting holes, and you will be good to go. And get our 4 screws in like that. Next, we're going to put in our LTE connectors. Now, if you're installing a BR1 Pro, you'll actually find that it's kind of hard to get the LTE 1 and 4 to reach without doing some kind of wires over the router and whatnot. You can interchangeably swap 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. Basically, the way it works is it's 1, 2. Let me just double check that. But yeah, 1 is here. This should be 2, right? No, that's 4. So 1 and 4, like I said, are over here, and 2 and 3 are here. So as long as you keep those in the same locations, you should be fine. With the Mini, you can actually get it to reach, so you're good to go. This is going to be LTE 1, so I'm going to go ahead and put that one on 1, and then this is going to be LTE 4. I'm going to go reach across and put that one on 4. But again, you could swap 1 and 4 if you needed to. It's not going to cause any problems. And then I'm going to go ahead and put 3 on 3 here. And I'm going to go ahead and put 2 on 2. Again, don't over tighten. If you're concerned about it getting looser or there being a problem, you can add a little bit of blue thread locker on this, just a very, very small amount on the outer on the router side. Don't pour it into the antenna. Just right on these little threaded tips. You could technically do that. I have not found that it's needed, but if you just finger tighten these, they will probably rattle out over time, and you don't want to go back into this device. So I recommend you got to wrench tighten them, but just be really careful not to over tighten them. Now I found that you get pretty good room on the Minis for access to all the ports, but it probably would be easier to access the Wi-Fi first, since they're a little bit lower. I did that kind of in reverse. All right, those are all tight. Just going around and lightly validating that everything feels good there. That one's a little loose. You may also want to take this moment to just very gently snug up the bolts that are on the modem itself. I'm sorry, the nuts that are on the modem itself. They come from the factory pretty loose, and they have a nice locking washer there. So if you snug them up, it just prevents that from rattling inside of there. All right, so next, we're going to grab the Peplink cable that came with the unit. I'm going to use this port on my left here, on the screen's left. That's going to be my input port from down below to provide power. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to swing that around and go ahead and go into PoE in. It's labeled right on the PoE splitter. Then I'm going to take the unit that the Ethernet cable you purchased from us, that'll be the shorter 6-inch one. This is a 12, but for your purposes, it'll be a 6. I'm going to plug that in from my Ethernet port on that splitter, and I'm going to go over to my LAN 1 port on the Peplink. Just like that. And that's going to mean that I can uplink to LAN down below if I want to add an access point or whatnot. Okay, now we're going to hop in here before I forget and grab this little guy out of here. This is a blank cap, and I'm going to cap the Ethernet port here that I am not using so that I don't accidentally forget and start using it. Next, I'm going to grab my label maker, and I've written a little PoE in here, which you don't need to do and is totally optional. But I'm going to put that because this is going to a customer who's never used this before. And I'm going to put a little label right on the correct Ethernet port here that says PoE in. So we know that's where we're going to get our power from. All right, next we're going to build the power supply cable that's going to go to the Starlink and over to our Peplink. So before see how these are the cable glands come in the bag with the wire? The reason for that is because they're different sizes. Look at the hole in the middle. You'll see one is smaller than the other, and the smaller one is for the Starlink power wire, and the large one is for the Ethernet cable that's going to go to the Starlink. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through. That way I don't have to take this one apart. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But that's just going to sit there like that. And then we're going to look and see that we have a red positive and a black negative there. And inside of our PoE splitter, we have this screw down terminal, this green one that plugs right in. And if you go ahead and test it, you'll notice the screw holes that tighten it will be facing down, and you can look and that will tell you which one is positive and negative. It's written right on there. V positive for voltage positive, and positive is red. So you need to put both the small cable that will power the router, it's a 4-pin Molex cable, this is it, it comes in your kit, and the Starlink into that DC terminal. Now, because I like things to look really nice, I'm going to use a ferrule crimper, which is this. Very cheap, probably 20 bucks on Amazon if you do any low voltage work, and it'll come with like a million little ferrule crimp ends. This is a nice tool to have, but it's totally optional and not necessarily needed. The screw down crimp terminals will crimp both of these wires down perfectly fine as well. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to combine my reds. I'm going to put a ferrule connector on there. Blue would be the color that fits very well for doubling up wires like that. And then I'm going to crimp it down like that. And black, I'm going to go ahead and crimp down like that. See that? Just gives me a really nice connector there that's going to work out perfectly for us. Because Peplink has tinned or kind of soldered the ends of those wires, they compress down and they are very, very secure in there. You don't have to like twist or tighten the wires across each other. I have not found that to be needed at all. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and unscrew the DC power terminal until it opens up all the way so I can fit those ends in. Again, the screws are facing down, so that tells me I know red is going this way on the right and black is going on the left. And we're just going to give those a little, we're going to flip that upside down and flip this upside down just to make sure that it's fully opened when we put our wires in. And they'll go all the way in basically flush. Then we're going to go ahead and screw those down with our eyeglass screwdriver. And our cable assembly all ready to go. Don't plug it in. Grab your waterproof middle layer here, and then grab your Starlink. I'll give you the cheats on which direction it is, but I don't actually remember. This is going to go this way, so power is going to be on this side. It doesn't matter, the cables are long enough. You can go through either port, they're the same size, but I'm going to go power through this side. Now, it's important to note that the holes here line up with the Ethernet ports on the outside here. It is not something you can spin around and put in either direction. You'll also notice there are some posts here that will line up with holes on the bottom. So it is a directional unit. So we're going to go ahead and put that down through. And I'm going to screw that down. Now these are plastic. I don't think you need to tighten them with a wrench. Just give them a nice tightening by hand. And then leave that top gland loose so you can pull those wires through as needed. So the next step now that I got the power in is I'm going to plug in my power here. And I'm going to plug in the 4-pin Molex, micro Molex over to the router. We're good to go there. Make sure that all looks good. And then I'm going to grab the Ethernet side of the Starlink, which is this bag, and do that one next. Now for this one, you'll note one end has the waterproof connector and one does not. Obviously the waterproof connector is going to go to the dish. And before we get involved in that, we're going to actually take this one apart. Now because this is a terminated cable with ends on both ends, I can't stick anything through it. But Peplink's thought of that. So we're going to disassemble this cable gland, and you'll notice that there's little ridges here, like wave ridges, that correspond with this, with how it all gets put back together. So we have to take this all apart to get into the rubber gland here, just like that. And then we got to take our cable here, take it apart, and we're going to go through this guy first. Actually, this guy first, then this guy, then this guy. This one, the rubber actually splits in half, and that's going to be how we get over that cable. And we're going to put it with the flat orientation, the flat side towards the box, not towards the dish. And then we're going to make sure that that's nice and secure, and then we're going to place the sleeve back over the rubber gland, and that's all going to fit back together that way. We're then going to go through this end and then put it all together and make sure that those little wave connectors marry nice and clean, and then go ahead and tighten it down. Take special care not to cross thread it, and you're good to go. And then you kind of pull the cable through gently. Don't over tighten it or you'll pull everything through it. You can leave it nice and loose so that the cable slides through. And we're going to go down through that, and then we're going to secure this one up. Go ahead and tighten that guy all the way up. Again, I do not think you need a wrench, but if you've got hands that aren't strong, you can absolutely use it. Just do not over tighten it. And flip that over in this direction. All right, Ethernet cable, we're going to swing that into the WAN, W-A-N port, because it's a WAN device, meaning it provides internet. And then we're going to I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to move this over to there so it's underneath and then to there. And that looks pretty good. Now at this point, I'm going to do a couple zip ties in some of these areas just to hold my cables from doing too much rattling. Just be really careful not to zip tie one of your antenna cables really hard or to create a bend. Like, this is the part where you might want to really make stuff look really good, and you could cause some damage to your antenna cables, and it's just not, no one's going to see it. It's inside of here. We want to get some security on these wires so that they're out of the way and they're not going to rattle, but we don't want to bend any of these wires beyond, let's say, 90 degrees. Okay, so everything's nice and secure. It's looking good. I'm going to double check that nothing's under stress. Everything feels pretty good. I'm also going to go ahead and tighten up the terminal screws here that screw it down and secure it. It's totally optional. It's not going to come out, to be perfectly honest, but this, like I said, will be in a first response vehicle, so it's going to get some rattles. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten the small screws on the end of the green terminal just so that I know it can't come out. All right, next we're going to pop this down, and as we go down, we're going to pull out slack on our Ethernet and power cables. So we have lots of slack, we have everything we need, and got plenty of room for our next step. Okay, now we are going to test before we screw all this together, because I can pretty much guarantee you that if you screw it all together, you're going to find that you did something wrong and you're going to have to take it all apart. And there's a lot of screws. So first thing we do is test. So we're going to plug in the dish, just like that. And then we're going to grab our Ethernet cable here. And we're going to plug that in to our Ethernet in. And we're going to wait and we're going to look for that blue Starlink dish light, which is good. On the other end of this, I have my PoE injector, and I've got it hooked up to a 600 watt 12 volt power supply inside of here. For you, you'd want to hook that up to your batteries and do it with the shortest amount of cable possible that's fused with 15 amp fuse would be what I'd recommend. You could technically do a 10 amp fuse if you wanted, but the cable is rated for 15, so we included 15. But you could go down a little bit if you wanted to. That would give you 120 watts, which would be fine for this. Now, what you want to look for is that Starlink light, after a minute or so, remains blue. If it is blinking blue, that's fine. But if it's blinking blue and it suddenly shuts off, that means the dish tried to power up and couldn't because of a power issue. If you find that happens, it's probably that you have used a Ethernet cable down from the roof that is not good enough to carry 90 watts of power. Recommend that you use the marine gauge shielded direct burial cable grade cables that we provide on the listing page. Or you've run power wires to your splitter that are inadequate, or you're not using the splitter that we provided and you're trying to use a PoE switch or something else that doesn't support 90 watts, and it will power up, but it will not work. The Starlink will not. The Peplink will actually power up and stay powered up typically, but the Starlink will just keep falling on its face and rebooting. So we've got a nice solid, blinking blue light, which means I'm trying to connect to satellites, but it is not rebooting. That is what we want to see. Next, I'm just going to pop open this side, and I'm going to verify on my Peplink that I've got a green status light, not a red one. It's had time to boot up. Red is in the beginning, but if it has a low power issue, it will go into a red status. Everything looks good, and I've got green power and PoE lights on my splitter. So everything is powered up and working properly on this device. So we're ready to close up this enclosure. Yep. So there, I had a wire that was over the seal, and it wasn't fitting properly. So that's very common. You want to make sure. You'll know it'll feel nice and solid. Peplink has done a good job of making these screws just short enough so that if you do it wrong, it actually won't tighten. So that's good. Next, we're going to go ahead and tighten up this lower unit, and I'm going to do it in a kind of a cross pattern. I'm going opposite corners to try and evenly space out the pressure that I'm applying to the waterproof seal. All right, next we're going to get that Starlink installed. We're going to pop out Starlink mount, set aside the screws that were in this bag, which are slightly different, a bit smaller. Same head though, same T20. And I'm just going to leave those right there on the deck. And we are going to slide this guy into the dish, lock it into place, make sure, there it goes, it locks right in. And we're going to grab our upper plate here. There he is. That's it. And you can't get to the wires. Don't put the screws in yet. We're going to flip this around. And then we're going to plug in, just like this, our power to the dish and our Ethernet to the dish. You're going to want that to be nice and flush. The outer edge of the insulation will be flush with the dish. Now, if you just shut this down right here, both these wires are going to get crimped and pinched. You got to pull them aside. You'll hear the dish drop into place. And then we're going to drop our 4 screws in to those holes. Just going to double check the 4th one before we get started that it's lined up. Looks good. Cross pattern to tighten. Gets us a nice even connection. And it's important to note that this is not waterproof up here. Everything waterproof's down below. The dish is waterproof, so you are not in a situation where you have a problem there. My little connector came apart. I'm just making sure that that's nice and secure. Okay, now before we assemble this final piece, we have to tighten up these to make sure we have a waterproof seal. So you can go ahead and give yourself a little bit more slack, but don't pull so that it's tight in there. You'll kind of feel you push a little bit back in. And then what I do is go ahead and attach these wires to each of the wire chase runs that Peplink has installed here on the sides. 1, 2, 3. That looks good. And then I go ahead and tighten up once I know everything's looking good. You don't have to over tighten. It's not going to get that wet in there. It's just got to keep the water out. Everything looks good. And we are ready to go. Now, I know it feels like you want to just click this down and be done, but I highly encourage you not to do that. Plug this back in, go back, and work on your setup. So, go into the router, program anything you want to program, enable Speed Fusion. Make sure you go in and turn on the Starlink support, which is under networking, under the WAN tab. At the bottom, you'll see Starlink. Enable that on your WAN port and do whatever other configurations you need. We've got tons of guides on how to get that working and what best practices are when you're combining Starlink and Peplink. But the point is, don't click this down just yet until you have really tried this and you're feeling really comfortable with it, for two reasons. One, if you click it down and then you mar all of these areas that you're going to have to use a screwdriver to pop this off again, you're going to pay a restocking fee, probably from just about anyone who you try to return it to. Two, it's waterproof the way it is. You don't have to click it down. Yes, you can't drive with it, but you can absolutely use this outside and make sure you're really comfortable with it. Note that you do need to put a waterproof connector down here on your power input port. That's what this is. It installs just like the one that we showed you when we put down the Starlink Ethernet cable. But other than that, you don't have to lock this down until you're 100% happy and satisfied with the setup. If something's going to go wrong, it's probably going to go wrong in the first week. So I would recommend you wait to click it down so that if you do have a problem, you can return it without issues, or you can troubleshoot and get into there without issues. So that's just my 2 cents. Now we're going to click this one down because I want you guys to see how that works. So just double checking before we click it down. Blue Starlink power lights looking good. I'm happy and I'm ready to go. I'm going to unplug this and we're going to start to apply pressure equally on each of these sides to get this to lock in. Now, it's a little tricky to get them all to lock. You have to kind of apply pressure with each finger on each corner and sort of work your way around it until you get them all. They will lock into place and everything will look nice and finished when you're done like that. We are good to go. I think we're all set. For this customer, since we're pre-installing the ends on his Ethernet cables, so he's got just a real plug and play installation. This is actually his Ethernet cable. I'll show you how this all works. Now, note that our shielded, compressed waterproof cables are specially designed for these types of connectors. That's why we have them, and that's why we don't recommend you just pick up cables on Amazon. Most of them, you'll have to actually take a razor blade and cut away part of it to actually get it to fit into these connectors. So just FYI. But for us, we're going to go ahead and do that. So we've got that in there. Got this guy. See how nice that just fit right in there? That's took us a while to find great cables that do just that. I'm going to loosely snug that up. And then we're going to plug this guy in. And we're going to slide. Here, I'll pick this up so you can see it from the upper camera. We're going to slide this down and screw it over that Ethernet cable until it's nice and tight. And then we're going to go and finalize the tightening over the cable. Boom. That is waterproof and ready to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions about this or you're interested in picking up a solution like this, you can reach out to us at mobilemusthave.com. You can start up a chat in the bottom right-hand corner, Or you can reach out and have a consultation with one of our representatives by going to talk.mobilemust-have.com, where you'll schedule a mutually agreed time to hop on with an expert and figure out exactly what you need. You can also email us at info@mobilemust-have.com, or you could call us. Our phone number's on the top of our website. We just like to schedule calls because it means you don't have to wait on hold and you get to speak directly to the right person, because we'll see what your specific needs were in the inquiry when you scheduled that visit. Thank you guys so much. The Antenna MAX S is pretty cool. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the road. Please be recording still.